High in the rugged peaks of the Andes, where the air thins and the earth feels untouched by time, there's a mystery that has whispered to explorers and archaeologists for centuries. Picture this, a vast mountain range, its slopes carved by wind and weather, hiding secrets so profound they rewrite history with every discovery. What if I told you that beneath these ancient stones lies the legacy of a civilization so advanced, so enigmatic, that even today we've only scratched the surface of their true story? This is the world of the Tiwanaku, a culture that thrived over 1,000 years ago, leaving behind clues so puzzling they defy explanation. From the moment you glimpse the ruins of their temples, the scale of their ambition becomes clear. These weren't just builders, they were visionaries. Their stonework fits together with such precision that not even a blade of grass can slip between the seams. Their carvings depict gods and symbols we still struggle to decipher, and scattered across these mountains, buried in the shadows of forgotten pathways, are 30 secrets so extraordinary they've left experts in awe. Some are artifacts of stunning craftsmanship, others are architectural marvels that rival the pyramids, and a few are so baffling they've sparked debates that rage on to this day. But here's the thing, the Tiwanaku didn't just vanish. They left a trail, a puzzle waiting to be solved. Imagine standing at the edge of an excavation site, the dust settling as another relic emerges from the earth. What does it tell us? How did a culture with no written language communicate such complex ideas? Why did they choose these remote peaks as their sanctuary? The answers are out there, hidden in the rocks, the carvings, and the legends passed down through generations. And as we peel back the layers, one revelation at a time, we're not just uncovering the past, we're rediscovering a piece of ourselves. So let's begin the journey. The Andes are calling, and their secrets are ready to be told. Among the most astonishing finds linked to the Tiwanaku is a silent city resting beneath the surface of Lake Titicaca. Diving into its icy waters, archaeologists uncovered stone walls, pathways, and ceremonial offerings, all preserved in eerie stillness as if time itself had paused. These aren't just scattered ruins, they form a deliberate layout, hinting at a sacred space once alive with chanting priests and flickering torchlight. The most striking discovery, a collection of carved puma heads and gold ornaments, left behind as gifts to the gods. What makes this underwater enigma so compelling is how it mirrors Tiwanaku's spiritual beliefs. The lake wasn't just a body of water, it was the womb of creation, a place where their origin myths began. Rising waters likely swallowed this site centuries ago, but was it an accident of nature or part of a deeper ritual? Some researchers believe the flooding was intentional, a symbolic return to the sacred depths. Others argue climate shifts forced the abandonment, turning a thriving hub into a submerged relic. Then there's the eerie precision of the stones themselves. The masonry matches Tiwanaku's signature style, interlocking blocks that defy erosion even after centuries underwater. Were these structures meant to endure, a testament to their builders' reverence for the lake's power? Every artifact pulled from the silt whispers another question, another piece of a puzzle that refuses to be solved. Perhaps the most haunting clue lies in the island of the sun, just a short distance from the sunken ruins. Here, Tiwanaku pilgrims once gathered to honor Intai, their sun god, suggesting the underwater site may have been part of a grand ceremonial network. Imagine the scene, priests navigating reed boats between islands and submerged temples, bridging the worlds above and below the water. What's undeniable is how this lost city challenges our assumptions. A civilization we once thought bound by the limits of their high-altitude home was in truth masterfully adapting to and even worshipping the forces that eventually claimed their work. The lake guards its secrets well, but each dive brings us closer to understanding why the Tiwanaku saw water not as an end, but as a beginning. Now, shift your gaze to the stone marvels of Pumapunku, where the Tiwanaku's genius reaches its most baffling peak. Scattered across this windswept plateau lie remnants of a structure so advanced, it looks as though it was crafted by otherworldly hands. The stones here aren't merely heavy, some weigh as much as 100 tons, but their true mystery lies in their craftsmanship. Each block is cut with razor-sharp edges, fitted together in intricate interlocking patterns that leave no room for error. The precision is so exact, so flawless, that modern engineers still debate how it was achieved without metal tools or advanced machinery. Take a closer look and you'll notice something even more puzzling. Recessed notches and symmetrical grooves carved into the stone, forming joints so tight they resemble a three-dimensional puzzle. These aren't rough-hewn slabs, they're architectural masterpieces designed to withstand earthquakes and the ravages of time. Some researchers argue that such precision would require tools we've yet to discover, perhaps even technologies lost to history. Others suggest the Tiwanaku possessed knowledge of harmonics or vibration, allowing them to shape stone with methods we can't yet replicate. Then there's the composition of the stones themselves. Made from andesite and diorite materials so hard they'd blunt modern diamond-tipped tools, their surfaces are polished to a mirror-like sheen. How did a culture without powered equipment achieve such smoothness? The deeper you dig into Pumapunku's secrets, the more questions arise. Were these stones quarried miles away and transported uphill, or did the Tiwanaku have access to a now-forgotten quarry nearby? And what was Pumapunku's purpose? Unlike the ceremonial temples found elsewhere, this site resembles a geometric blueprint, as if it were a model for something far grander. Some theorize it was a docking station for celestial beings, while others believe it functioned as a cosmic calendar, aligning with solstices and equinoxes. The truth may be simpler or far more complex than we imagine. What's undeniable is the sheer audacity of the builders. In a world without cranes, without blueprints, they envisioned and executed a project that humbles modern craftsmanship. Every cut, every angle whispers of a sophistication that defies the timeline of human innovation. Pumapunku doesn't just challenge our understanding of the past, it dares us to rethink what's possible. Standing tall among the ruins of Tiwanaku, the Gate of the Sun isn't just a monument, it's a riddle carved in stone. This massive archway, hewn from a single block of andesite, dominates the landscape with its intricate patterns and enigmatic figures. At its center, a deity with radiating headdress grips staffs in each hand, flanked by rows of winged attendants frozen in procession. But look closer and you'll realize these aren't mere decorations. Every groove, every symbol seems to whisper a message across the centuries, a celestial language waiting to be decoded. What makes this gateway so extraordinary is how it intertwines art with astronomy. The central figure is often interpreted as Viracocha, the creator god, but the surrounding carvings suggest something more, a precise celestial map. Researchers have noticed that the 48 squares framing the deity align with the cycles of the moon, while other markings correlate with solstices and equinoxes. During the winter solstice, sunlight pours through the gate at just the right angle to illuminate specific carvings, as if activating a hidden message. Was this a calendar, a sacred alarm clock signaling planting seasons or religious ceremonies? The precision of these alignments reveals a culture deeply attuned to the cosmos. Unlike other ancient civilizations that tracked celestial events with standalone structures, the Tiwanaku integrated their knowledge into every aspect of their architecture. The Gate of the Sun didn't just mark time, it may have been a bridge between earth and sky, a place where priests decoded the will of the gods through sunlight and shadow. Yet mysteries linger. Why does the gate stand alone, unconnected to walls or other structures? Some argue it was part of a larger complex, now lost to time, while others believe its isolation was intentional, a focal point for rituals or pilgrimages. Then there's the unsettling question of its unfinished backside, rough and unadorned. Was this haste or a deliberate choice echoing the Tiwanaku's belief in balance between perfection and imperfection? Perhaps most intriguing is the gate's resilience. Despite centuries of exposure to wind, rain, and even looting, its carvings remain crisp, as if defying erosion itself. Whether it served as an astronomical tool, a spiritual portal, or both, one thing is clear: the Gate of the Sun refuses to surrender its secrets easily. And with each new study, we're reminded that the Tiwanaku didn't just observe the heavens, they conversed with them. Buried deep within the ruins of Tiwanaku, archaeologists have uncovered stone figurines that defy simple explanation. These humanoid carvings stare back at us through elongated skulls, unnaturally slender limbs, and eyes that seem too large, too knowing. They don't resemble the people of the Andes, at least not as we know them. So who or what were the Tiwanaku trying to depict? One prevailing theory points to ritual head binding, a practice seen in other ancient cultures where infant skulls were carefully shaped with boards and cloth to create an elongated silhouette. For the Tiwanaku, this may have been a mark of status, a way to mimic the gods they worshipped. Excavations have revealed skeletal remains with similarly elongated crania, suggesting this wasn't just artistic license, it was a lived reality for some. But here's where it gets even stranger. Some figurines feature traits that go beyond cultural modification. Tapered fingers, almond-shaped eyes, and proportions that echo descriptions of celestial beings in global mythologies. This has fueled speculation far outside conventional archaeology. Could these figurines represent encounters with visitors from beyond Earth? Proponents of the ancient astronaut theory highlight similarities between these carvings and modern depictions of extraterrestrials, arguing that the Tiwanaku might have recorded contact with advanced beings. Skeptics counter that attributing mystery to aliens undermines indigenous ingenuity, suggesting instead that the figurines symbolize shamanic visions or deities from their spiritual pantheon. Yet the artifacts themselves raise provocative questions. Why do so many share the same otherworldly features, as if copied from a singular, unearthly model? And why were they often placed in ceremonial pits alongside offerings of gold and seashells, items rare in the high-altitude Andes? The placement hints at reverence, as if these weren't mere decorations but conduits to something beyond human understanding. Perhaps the most compelling clue lies in the Tiwanaku's own myths. Oral traditions speak of sky gods descending to teach agriculture, astronomy, and the art of stone cutting. Could these figurines be portraits of those very teachers? Whether the answer leans toward ritual or revelation, one thing is certain: the Tiwanaku left us a gallery of enigmas, and every silent stone face seems to ask, do we dare to imagine what they truly saw? Beneath the crumbling stone terraces of Akapana, the earth holds a secret far grander than anything visible above ground. For centuries, the ruins here seemed impressive enough, a towering, step-like structure dominating the Tiwanaku landscape. But recent LiDAR scans peeled back the layers of dirt and time to reveal something astonishing: an entire pyramid buried and forgotten, its vast dimensions hidden in plain sight. This isn't just another temple, it's a feat of engineering so advanced, it rewrites what we thought possible for ancient Andean cultures. The scans show a multi-tiered colossus, each level meticulously designed with precision-cut stones. But what truly sets Akapana apart is its intricate drainage system, a network of channels and conduits that snake through the pyramid's core like veins. During heavy rains, water would cascade down carved spillways, funneling through ceremonial basins before vanishing into underground tunnels. Some researchers believe this wasn't just practical, it was sacred. Water, to the Tiwanaku, was life itself, a divine force to be controlled and celebrated. Imagine the spectacle: priests guiding torrents through these channels, turning rainfall into a ritual, the pyramid itself pulsing with liquid energy. The symbolism runs even deeper. Akapana's alignment mirrors the surrounding mountains, suggesting it was a man-made echo of the sacred peaks. Its terraces may have been planted with crops, blending agriculture with spirituality, a living monument where earth, water, and human labor intertwine. And then there's the mystery of its burial. Was the pyramid deliberately covered over time, sealed away as part of some grand ceremonial closure? Or did natural forces slowly swallow it, preserving its secrets until technology could unveil them? What's undeniable is the pyramid's role as a spiritual heart. Artifacts found within its hidden chambers include sacrificial offerings, llama bones, polished obsidian, even fragments of textiles dyed with rare pigments. These weren't random gifts, they were carefully chosen, placed with intention. The drainage system itself may have been more than functional. Some theorize the flowing water carried prayers, a liquid bridge between the physical and spiritual worlds. Akapana's rediscovery forces us to reconsider the Tiwanaku's ambition. This wasn't just a culture-building monument, they were sculpting the very elements, bending water and stone to their will. Every channel, every carved step, whispers of a civilization that saw no boundary between engineering and devotion. And as LiDAR reveals more hidden structures across the Andes, one question lingers: how many other pyramids lie waiting beneath our feet, their stories still buried in the dark? Among the towering remnants of Tiwanaku, one stone stands apart, not for its size or intricate carvings, but for the dark, rust-colored stains that seep into its surface like ancient wounds. This is the so-called sacrificial altar, a slab of weathered rock whose crimson streaks have fueled debates for generations. Are these marks merely the result of natural iron deposits, or do they hold something far more unsettling, evidence of rituals that once echoed across these sacred grounds? The answer may lie in the chemistry of the stone itself. Initial tests reveal high concentrations of iron oxide, a compound commonly found in the region's soil. Yet there's a haunting inconsistency. The stains follow unnatural patterns, pooling in grooves and crevices as if guided by human hands. Forensic archaeologists point to the presence of proteins embedded deep within the stone's pores, traces of organic material that don't align with simple mineral decay. Could these be the remnants of blood, centuries old but still clinging to the rock like a silent testament? Indigenous oral histories add layers to the mystery. Elders speak of Wilkakatu, the time of offering, when priests would conduct ceremonies under the watch of the gods. According to these accounts, the altar was a threshold between worlds, a place where life was given to sustain balance. Llama sacrifices were common, their throats slit so their blood could anoint the stones. But some legends whisper of darker rites of captured warriors or volunteers who walked willingly into the sacrificial fire, their deaths believed to ensure fertile harvests or military victories. Then there's the altar's placement, aligned precisely with the rising sun during the summer solstice. On those mornings, sunlight would strike the stained surface, setting the red hues ablaze, a spectacle that may have symbolized renewal or divine approval. Was the blood, if indeed it is blood, meant to feed the earth or commune with celestial forces? Modern science and ancestral memory collide here, leaving us with more questions than answers. The stains could be both natural and sacred iron oxide enriched by ritual, a stone transformed by belief. Whether the altar witnessed solemn offerings or brutal executions, its legacy endures, a rust-colored riddle carved into the very bones of the Andes. And as long as those stains remain, the stones will keep their secrets, daring us to unravel the truth beneath their weathered surface. High on the windswept slopes of the Andes, miles from the grandeur of Tiwanaku's temples, lies a place that holds the key to one of civilization's greatest architectural feats. This is the forgotten quarry of Cerro Capia, where the earth is still scarred by the extraction of stones so massive, their very existence defies logic. Walk among these abandoned pits today, and you'll find more than just empty trenches. you'll stumble upon tools left behind as if the workers vanished mid-task, and half-carved blocks that seem to freeze a moment in time. The most striking detail, the sheer scale of what was attempted. Some partially extracted blocks here weigh over 40 tons, their surfaces still marked by precise grooves and channels. But here's the puzzle: no metal tools have ever been found at the site. Instead, researchers uncovered simple stone hammers and bronze chisels, tools far too rudimentary to explain the laser-like precision seen in Tiwanaku's finished structures. How did they carve andesite, a rock harder than granite, with implements that would barely scratch its surface? One theory suggests they used a technique called pecking, patiently fracturing the stone with repeated blows, then polishing it with sand and water. Yet even this doesn't fully account for the flawless angles and smooth finishes. Were there other tools, perhaps made of perishable materials, that have long since turned to dust? Then there's the matter of transportation. These quarries sit nearly 50 miles from Tiwanaku, across treacherous terrain of steep cliffs and shifting sands. The Tiwanaku had no wheels, no draft animals, not even the wheelbarrows we take for granted. So how did they move these monoliths? Some speculate they used log rollers, dragging stones atop a path of flattened earth. Others point to reed boats, suggesting the blocks were floated across Lake Titicaca during wet seasons when water levels rose higher. But the most compelling clue might lie in the stones themselves. Many have peculiar notches and protrusions that resemble attachment points, as if they were once lashed to some sort of sled or frame. Perhaps the most haunting detail is the quarry's abrupt abandonment. Half-finished blocks still cling to the bedrock, their shapes emerging like ghosts from the stone. Tools lie scattered, some mid-strike, as if workers dropped everything in a single moment. Was it a sudden catastrophe, a shift in religious priorities? Or did the Tiwanaku simply exhaust their resources, leaving behind a silent testament to ambition's limits? Cerro Capia doesn't just challenge our understanding of ancient engineering, it forces us to reckon with the human determination behind it. Every groove, every discarded tool whispers of a people who refuse to be bound by the impossible. And as we stand in the shadow of their unfinished work, we're left to wonder, what might they have achieved if time hadn't run out? Step onto the ancient stones of Kalasasaya, and you'll notice something strange. The walls here don't just stand, they listen. This ceremonial platform, with its towering monoliths and perfectly aligned gateways, holds an acoustic secret that defies explanation. Speak in a hushed tone near one corner, and your voice will travel with eerie clarity to someone standing dozens of feet away, as if the very stones are carrying your words. This isn't just a quirk of construction. The precision suggests something far more deliberate. The phenomenon hinges on the platform's unique geometry. The walls aren't flat, they angle slightly inward, their surfaces meticulously smooth to reflect sound waves like a parabolic dish. Even the placement of the massive stone pillars seems calculated, acting as amplifiers that channel whispers into audible signals across the vast space. Archaeoacoustics experts have measured these effects, confirming that the design creates sound hotspots, areas where frequencies align perfectly to transmit voices with unnatural clarity. Was this an ancient form of amplification, a way for priests to deliver messages without shouting, or perhaps something more mystical, a bridge between the spoken word and the divine? Ritual offers the most compelling explanation. The Tiwanaku revered sound as sacred, believing vibrations could summon spirits or commune with celestial forces. Chronicles from later Inca cultures, who inherited many Tiwanaku traditions, describe ceremonies where chants and drumbeats were used to alter consciousness or predict weather patterns. At Kalasasaya, whispers might have been part of initiation rites, where secrets passed between initiates and elders without the crowd overhearing. Imagine a priest murmuring prophecies near the sun gate, their words reaching only the chosen few standing at the precise spot where the architecture bent sound to its will. Yet skeptics argue the acoustics could be accidental, a happy byproduct of stonework intended for structural stability. After all, the Tiwanaku's mastery of seismic resistance is well documented. Their walls were designed to withstand earthquakes, not necessarily to carry whispers. But the counterpoint lies in the details. Why smooth the interiors to such a mirror-like finish if not to manipulate sound? Why align the platform's corners with solstice sunrises unless every element served a dual purpose, practical and sacred? The most haunting evidence comes from modern-day visitors. Many report an unsettling sensation when the walls whisper back, a faint echo that doesn't match their own voice, almost as if the stones retain traces of ancient conversations. Science dismisses this as auditory pareidolia, the mind's tendency to find patterns in noise. But standing there with the Andes wind howling and those walls humming faintly, it's hard not to wonder, did the Tiwanaku engineer these acoustics not just for the living, but to hear voices we no longer can? When Spanish conquistadors first pushed into the Andes, their letters and diaries overflowed with tales of a city shimmering with gold. Tiwanaku. One soldier wrote of temples where the very walls seemed to breathe sunlight, their surfaces plated with golden sheets that caught fire at dawn. Another described a towering statue, its face cast in pure gold, eyes set with emeralds that watched like a god. These accounts paint a picture of staggering opulence, a civilization that wielded gold not just as wealth but as sacred language. Yet today, almost none of these treasures remain. The question burns, what secrets vanished with them? The looting was systematic and ruthless. Conquistador Pedro Cieza de Leon documented how his comrades pried golden plaques from temple walls, melted down ceremonial artifacts into ingots, and even stripped gold leaf from intricately carved doorways. But hidden within these grim records are tantalizing clues. One priest's journal mentions a golden disc etched with celestial maps, its surface marked with strange figures that moved with the moon. Another describes a headdress studded with silver and turquoise, its design mirroring the constellation Orion. These weren't mere decorations, they were cosmological blueprints blending astronomy with spirituality. What makes these lost artifacts so significant is how they disrupt our understanding of Tiwanaku's economy. Gold was rarer here than in other ancient cultures. The nearest mines lay hundreds of miles away. Yet the sheer quantity described by the Spanish suggests an extensive trade network, possibly reaching as far as the Amazon or the Pacific coast. Some scholars argue the gold's origin might hold the key to Tiwanaku's collapse. Did their alliances fracture when resources dwindled? Then there's the craftsmanship. A few surviving fragments, overlooked or hidden by locals, reveal techniques far ahead of their time. One pendant, recovered from a private collection in Seville, shows gold threads thinner than human hair woven into a mesh that mimics Andean weaving patterns. Another features soldering so precise it resembles modern laser work. These weren't hammered trinkets, they were masterpieces, possibly forged in workshops that served both kings and gods. Yet the greatest loss isn't the metal, it's the meaning. Gold, for the Tiwanaku, was more than currency. It symbolized the sun's tears, the sweat of deities, a conduit between realms. A single surviving oral tradition speaks of a golden maize stalk, its kernels tuned to chime in the wind, creating music to summon rain. Without these objects, we're left deciphering a religion from its skeleton, guessing at the rituals that once bathed these mountains in light. Every melted ingot carried a story, and in their absence, the silence echoes. Deep within the tombs of Tiwanaku's elite, nestled beside gold ornaments and sacrificial offerings, archaeologists uncovered tiny, unassuming bundles that tell a story far grander than their size suggests. Dried coca leaves, perfectly preserved for over 1,000 years. At first glance, they might seem insignificant, but these fragile remnants reveal a hidden web of ritual, power, and a trade network so vast it stretched from the high Andes to the steamy depths of the Amazon rainforest. Coca wasn't just a plant to the Tiwanaku, it was sacred. Chewed during ceremonies, its leaves were believed to open channels to the divine, sharpening the mind and easing the burdens of high-altitude life. The presence of these leaves in elite tombs suggests they were more than just a ritual tool. They were a status symbol, a privilege reserved for nobles and priests. But here's the twist: coca doesn't grow in the thin air of the Andes. The plant thrives in the humid lowlands hundreds of miles away. So how did it end up in these tombs, meticulously placed alongside the dead? The answer lies in the Tiwanaku's astonishing trade routes. Chemical analysis of the leaves traces their origin to the eastern slopes of the Andes and even deeper into the Amazon basin. This wasn't casual barter, it was a highly organized exchange system where goods like coca, tropical feathers, and rare woods flowed uphill, while highland treasures like obsidian and alpaca wool traveled down. The logistics alone boggle the mind. Imagine porters navigating sheer mountain passes, their loads balanced on their backs, or rafts drifting across Lake Titicaca, all to deliver these precious leaves to the Altiplano. Yet the leaves' journey doesn't end with trade. In death, they took on new meaning. Wrapped in delicate textiles or placed in ceremonial pouches, they accompanied the elite into the afterlife, perhaps as offerings to ancestors or talismans for the journey ahead. Some tombs even contained lime containers, a key ingredient for activating coca's effects, hinting at a belief that the rituals of life continued beyond the grave. The real mystery: the scale of this network suggests the Tiwanaku weren't just traders, they were diplomats weaving alliances across ecological zones. Their ability to secure coca in such quantities speaks of relationships with distant cultures, possibly even ritual pacts sealed through shared ceremonies. And while the Spanish later exploited coca as a tool of labor, the Tiwanaku revered it as a bridge between worlds, a humble leaf that connected the living, the dead, and the untamed jungles far below their mountain home. What lingers most isn't just the physical evidence, but the echoes of a worldview that saw no boundaries between commerce and spirituality. Every leaf in those tombs is a silent witness to a civilization that turned trade into something sacred, and in doing so, bound together the extremes of a continent. Perched on the western edge of Tiwanaku's ceremonial core, the structure known as Putuni hides a celestial secret in its very foundations. Unlike the towering monuments that dominate the site, this rectangular complex seems unassuming at first glance, until you notice how its walls align with the horizon in precise, intentional angles. Researchers mapping these orientations made a startling discovery. The eastern doorway frames the rising point of Venus during its brightest phases, while the western wall points directly to the Pleiades star cluster at key moments in the agricultural calendar. The implications are profound. Without telescopes or written records, the Tiwanaku astronomers engineered a stone observatory that tracked planetary motions with uncanny accuracy. Venus, in particular, held deep spiritual significance across Andean cultures. Its cyclical appearances and disappearances were seen as a cosmic dance between the realms of the living and the dead. But Putuni reveals something even more remarkable. The builders didn't just note Venus's position, they predicted its 8-year cycle, a pattern that aligns with the time it takes for the planet to return to the same point in the sky. Embedded in the architecture are subtle markers like notched stones and carved symbols that may have served as a counting system for these celestial intervals. Then there's the Pleiades connection. In the high Andes, the cluster's first appearance in June signaled the start of planting season, its visibility dictating when crops would succeed or fail. Putuni's western alignment allowed priests to monitor this celestial event with razor-sharp precision. But recent laser scans revealed an even cleverer detail, a narrow window in the structure's upper level that, when viewed from a specific spot on the solstice, frames the Pleiades like a targeting scope. This wasn't just observation, it was celestial engineering. What truly sets Putuni apart is how it merges astronomy with everyday survival. The same stars that guided rituals also dictated when to sow quinoa or move llama herds. The structure's floors even slope slightly, channeling rainwater into basins that may have mirrored the Milky Way's path, a literal fusion of earth and sky. While European astronomers centuries later relied on parchment and lenses, the Tiwanaku built their knowledge into the land itself, turning stone and shadow into a living observatory. Yet mysteries linger. How did they refine their measurements without written mathematics? Why did later cultures, like the Inca, inherit fragments of this knowledge but lose its full complexity? Putuni's silent walls offer no easy answers, only proof of a vision so vast. It mapped the heavens not with ink, but with the weight of mountains and the patience of the stars. Half buried in the earth near Tiwanaku's outskirts, the Cantatalita monolith stands frozen in time, a 7-meter-tall sentinel of stone, its rough silhouette hinting at the godlike figure it might have become. Unlike the polished statues adorning the city's temples, this giant remains trapped between raw material and masterpiece, its surface scarred by the very tools meant to set it free. For archaeologists, it's a rare gift, an unfinished work that reveals the Tiwanaku's sculpting secrets in startling detail. Take one glance at the monolith's flank, and you'll see history's workshop in action. Chisel marks groove the stone in parallel lines, showing how artisans systematically pecked away at the andesite, millimeter by millimeter. Deeper cuts outline where limbs would have emerged, while smoother patches suggest preliminary polishing. But the real revelation lies in the tool kits found nearby: rounded stone hammers, bronze chisels, and abrasive sandstones, all left in situ as if the workers stepped away mid-stroke. These weren't crude instruments, they were precision implements wielded with such skill that even the partial face carved into the stone's upper section displays eyelashes finer than a fingertip's width. Why was this colossus abandoned? The answer may lurk in a jagged fissure splitting its base. Andesite, though durable, is prone to hidden fractures. A single flaw could doom weeks of labor, and the Tiwanaku's exacting standards left no room for error. Another theory points to the quarry itself. Excavations revealed nearby stones with similar tool marks, suggesting Cantatalita might have been part of a larger workshop where multiple statues were born simultaneously. If resources shifted or priorities changed, this monolith could have been sacrificed to more pressing projects. Yet there's a haunting beauty in its incompleteness. The Tiwanaku believed stone held living energy, and some scholars argue the fissure wasn't a defect but a sign, the spirit within refusing to be carved. Local legends speak of a sculptor who dreamt the monolith wept when struck, its tears flooding the quarry until work ceased. Whether fact or folklore, the story captures a truth. Cantatalita endures as a testament to ambition's limits and the humility of even the greatest craftsmen. Walk around its base today and you'll spot something modern engineers rarely admit: tool grooves that waver slightly, correcting course like a hesitant pencil sketch. This wasn't robotic precision, it was human trial and error, a reminder that perfection emerged from patience, not magic, the monolith's greatest lesson. That the Tiwanaku's genius lay not in infallibility, but in knowing when to walk away. Far from the sacred shores of Lake Titicaca lies a body of water so hostile. Its very name means the lake that dries in the local Aymara language. Lake Pupo might seem like an odd place to uncover treasures. Its shallow, arsenic-rich waters shimmer under the Andean sun like a poisoned mirror, devoid of fish or thriving plant life. But beneath this toxic surface lies one of archaeology's greatest ironies. The same chemicals that make the lake deadly have perfectly preserved a snapshot of Tiwanaku life, freezing fabrics, tools, and ritual objects in time. The discovery came by accident. When seasonal droughts exposed stretches of the lake bed, farmers scouring the cracked earth for salt stumbled upon bundles of cloth so vibrant they looked freshly dyed. Scientists later confirmed these weren't just random scraps. They were intact burial offerings, their colors still luminous after 1,200 years. The arsenic that poisoned the water acted as a natural disinfectant, killing bacteria that would normally devour organic material, while the alkaline salts crystallized around fibers, creating a protective shell. What makes these finds extraordinary isn't just their preservation, but what they reveal about Tiwanaku's reach. Among the textiles were patterns never before seen, geometric designs blending highland motifs with jungle vibrancy, suggesting trade networks stretching far beyond the Andes. Some fabrics contained threads from Amazonian plants, while others mimicked the featherwork of coastal cultures. Even more telling were the contents tucked inside these bundles: tiny figurines carved from tropical woods, shells from the Pacific, and even traces of coca leaves from the eastern slopes. This wasn't just a local burial, it was a multicultural time capsule. Then there's the eerie state of the artifacts themselves. A child's tunic woven from alpaca wool still bears the subtle stretch marks of tiny shoulders that once wore it. A priest's headdress retains traces of hallucinogenic snuff in its folds. Most haunting of all are the fishing nets, their knots still tight, left by a lakeshore that hasn't seen fish in centuries. These aren't museum pieces, they're intimate possessions, paused mid-use by time's strange chemistry. Recent excavations uncovered something even more startling: lead-lined baskets filled with liquid mercury. In small doses, the Tiwanaku may have used this toxic metal in rituals, its shimmering surface symbolizing celestial waters. But in Lake Pupo's embrace, these vessels became unintentional time bombs, their contents perfectly preserved, waiting to tell their story. The lake's cruel gift forces us to reconsider how environments shape history. What we might call harsh or uninhabitable was, for the Tiwanaku, another canvas for their ingenuity. Even as the waters recede today, victims of climate change and mining runoff, they surrender secrets that refuse to fade, a paradox of poison and preservation, where the deadliest elements became history's guardians. Among the most striking yet lesser-known relics of Tiwanaku are the snarling stone sentinels known as the Chachapuma, part human, part jaguar, and wholly terrifying. These hybrid figures crouch at the thresholds of sacred spaces, their muscular bodies frozen mid-snarl, clawed hands gripping ritual staffs or the severed heads of enemies. Unlike the serene deities adorning temple walls, the Chachapuma radiate raw, primal energy, their gaping mouths revealing dagger-like fangs designed to send chills down the spine of any who approached uninvited. Archaeologists believe these guardians served a very specific purpose: to ward off malevolent spirits and trespassers through sheer intimidation. In Tiwanaku's spiritual worldview, boundaries between the physical and supernatural worlds were porous, and protection was essential. The jaguar's likeness wasn't chosen at random across ancient Andean cultures. Big cats symbolized stealth, strength, and the ability to move between realms. By merging human and jaguar traits, the Chachapuma became the ultimate gatekeepers, fierce enough to deter both earthly thieves and spectral invaders. But there's more to these figures than brute force. Some specimens reveal intricate carvings along their backs, geometric patterns resembling celestial maps or flowing water, suggesting they weren't just guards but conduits for divine energy. One particularly well-preserved Chachapuma, uncovered near the Kalasasaya complex, bears faint traces of red pigment in its eye sockets, a detail that would have made its gaze seem alive in flickering torchlight. Imagine standing before it during a night ceremony, the fire casting shadows that made those stone muscles twitch. Would you dare take another step? The most unsettling detail lies in their placement. These statues often flank tombs or underground chambers, their bodies angled inward as if herding intruders away. In one excavation, a Chachapuma was found with its mouth positioned directly over a ventilation shaft leading to a burial crypt, perhaps a final warning to those who might disturb the dead. Yet for all their ferocity, there's a paradoxical tenderness in some carvings. A few clasp tiny effigies of infants or animals, blurring the line between protector and nourisher, destroyer and creator. Modern Aymara descendants still speak of the Chachapuma in hushed tones, some claiming the statues growl during earthquakes or when ill fortune approaches. Whether myth or metaphor, the legacy endures. These weren't just sculptures, they were the Tiwanaku's spiritual bouncers, standing watch in a world where the unseen was as real as the stone itself. And if you listen closely in the Andean wind, you might just hear the echo of their snarls, still on duty after 1,000 years. Beneath the sun-baked stones of Tiwanaku's temples, whispers persist of a shadowy underworld, a network of tunnels so vast it's said to stretch beneath the Andes like hollow veins. Local legends describe these passages as chincanas, sacred pathways linking Tiwanaku to distant holy sites, even as far as Cusco, hundreds of miles away. Some tales speak of priests vanishing into these corridors for days, only to emerge with knowledge no mortal should possess. Others warn of labyrinthine traps designed to ensnare the unworthy. For centuries, these stories were dismissed as folklore until modern ground-penetrating radar revealed something astonishing. Deep below Akapana's pyramid, scans detected hollow chambers and narrow, man-made corridors, their walls lined with precisely fitted stone. Some passages descend at steep angles, disappearing beyond the range of sensors. Expeditions have managed to access a few, squeezing through collapsed entryways to find tunnels partially flooded or blocked by deliberate stone plugs. The most compelling discovery, a section of wall carved with twin serpents, their bodies forming a spiral, a symbol later adopted by the Inca to represent their own subterranean myths. Were these tunnels the inspiration for those legends? Then there's the eerie acoustics. Researchers noted that even a whispered word inside these corridors echoes unnaturally, bouncing off the walls in a way that mimics the ceremonial sound effects of Kalasase's platform above ground. Could the tunnels have been an extension of Tiwanaku's sonic rituals, amplifying chants to resonate through the earth itself? But the greatest mystery remains their purpose. Some scholars argue they were hydrological features, part of the same ingenious drainage system seen at Akapana. Others point to burn marks on the ceilings, suggesting torchlit processions, perhaps pilgrimages mirroring the journey of the dead. A handful of collapsed tunnels lead toward Lake Titicaca, fueling speculation they were escape routes or spiritual portals to the watery underworld. For now, most passages remain inaccessible, their secrets guarded by unstable debris. Yet every scratch mark on the walls, every offering niche packed with centuries-old ash, hints at a hidden dimension of Tiwanaku's world, one where the boundary between earth and myth wasn't just crossed but carved in stone. High on the windswept plains of the Andes, where frost bites the earth for half the year, the Tiwanaku pulled off an agricultural miracle. They turned barren slopes into a breadbasket that fed an empire. Their secret, a mastery of the humble potato so profound, it reshaped the landscape itself. Walk through these mountains today, and you'll still find the ghostly outlines of their terraced fields, staircases of earth climbing the hillsides like giants' footprints. But these weren't just walls, they were thermal regulators, capturing sunlight by day and releasing warmth by night to shield tender crops from the deadly alpine chill. What truly set the Tiwanaku apart was their genius for preservation. In a climate where fresh produce rotted within days, they pioneered a technique still used today, chunyo, the art of freeze-drying potatoes. Families would spread tubers across the frozen ground, letting the cold nights dehydrate them naturally. By day, they'd trample the potatoes to squeeze out moisture, repeating the cycle until only lightweight, indestructible nuggets remained. A single harvest treated this way could feed thousands for years. Archaeologists have found storehouses packed with chunyo dating back centuries, still edible thanks to the Andes' natural freeze-thaw rhythm. The surplus didn't just prevent famine, it fueled Tiwanaku's expansion. With reliable food stores, laborers could focus on grand projects, building temples, carving monoliths, maintaining roads instead of scrambling for daily survival. Traders carried lightweight chunyo across the empire, from the Amazon foothills to the Pacific coast, turning potatoes into a currency as valuable as gold. Even their gods reflected this revolution. Pottery depicts deities cradling potato plants, their roots curling like celestial rivers, yet the real marvel lies in the terrace's hidden engineering. Beneath the soil, the Tiwanaku buried intricate drainage systems, using layered gravel and clay to prevent waterlogging during rainy seasons. Some fields even featured movable stone baffles to direct meltwater from glaciers, an ancient irrigation app controlled by hand. Modern agronomists note these methods boosted yields by 200% compared to flat farming, a productivity spike unmatched until the Industrial Revolution. Perhaps most poignant are the fossilized potato seeds found in ceremonial pits, each variety carefully labeled with notched sticks. The Tiwanaku didn't just grow food, they curated biodiversity, breeding frost-resistant strains that could withstand the capricious mountain weather. In their hands, a simple tuber became a testament to human ingenuity, proof that even the harshest earth could be coaxed into abundance. And as climate change threatens modern crops, those ancient terraces whisper a lesson. Sometimes survival isn't about conquering nature, but learning to dance with its rhythms. On the tiny, wind-swept island of Pariti, rising from the blue expanse of Lake Titicaca, archaeologists uncovered a burial site that would rewrite the narrative of Tiwanaku's influence, but not for the treasures they expected. Instead, the tombs held skulls, dozens of them, each deliberately elongated, their bones reshaped with such precision that they seem almost otherworldly. These weren't the results of injury or natural deformity. They were intentional transformations, crafted from infancy with tight cloth bindings and wooden boards to mold the soft skulls of children into these striking, tapered forms. The practice itself isn't unique to Pariti. Similar modified skulls have been found across ancient cultures, from the Huns of Eurasia to the Maya of Mesoamerica. But what sets these apart is their staggering uniformity. Unlike other societies where head binding might denote class or lineage, every skull on Pariti, regardless of the individual's age or sex, bears the same dramatic elongation. This suggests something radical, an entire community united by this singular ideal of beauty or divinity. Were they emulating the gods they worshipped, whose depictions often feature elongated heads in Tiwanaku carvings? Or was this a physical marker of belonging, a way to distinguish themselves from neighboring groups? Then there's the anomaly. Among the skulls, one stood out, not just for its shape but for its sheer size. Dubbed the Pariti giant, this cranium is nearly 30% larger than the others, with a cranial volume that defies typical human anatomy. Some researchers argue it's a rare genetic condition, while others point to its similarities with so-called conehead skulls found in Peru and Malta, sparking debates that blur the line between archaeology and speculation. But the most haunting clue lies beneath the bone. Chemical analysis revealed traces of hallucinogenic plants in the teeth of several skulls, hinting at rituals where altered states might have accompanied the head-binding process. Imagine the scene: infants, their heads carefully wrapped, while shamans chanted under the influence of sacred herbs, perhaps believing the reshaping opened a conduit to the divine. Pariti's skulls resist easy answers. They're neither aberrations nor accidents, but deliberate choices etched into flesh and bone. And as long as they stare back at us from museum cases, their silent, elongated forms will keep challenging our assumptions about identity, ritual, and the lengths humans go to touch the sacred. Towering over the dusty plaza of Tiwanaku, the Bennett monolith isn't just another stone sentinel, it's a 7-meter-tall cipher, its surface etched with symbols so intricate they've been called the Rosetta Stone of the Andes. At first glance, the statue appears to depict a single regal figure, arms crossed in a gesture of authority, its body adorned with cascading carvings. But tilt your head just right, and those seemingly decorative patterns transform into something far more profound, a celestial map charting the heavens as the Tiwanaku saw them. The key lies in the monolith's back, where swirling lines intersect with precise geometric shapes. Early archaeologists dismissed these as mere artistic flourishes until a sharp-eyed researcher noticed their uncanny resemblance to the Pleiades cluster during its zenith. Further study revealed more matches, jagged lines mirroring the Milky Way's path during solstices, circles aligning with Venus's brightest appearances. But the most striking detail is a series of wavy grooves flanking the figure's sides, which scholars now believe represent a creation myth lost to time. According to reconstructed oral traditions, the Tiwanaku believed the world emerged from watery chaos, with mountain gods rising to anchor the land. The monolith's wavy lines might symbolize this primordial flood, while the triangular carvings above depict the peaks that brought order. If true, this isn't just a star chart. It's a cosmological blueprint fusing astronomy with origin stories in stone. Modern technology has unveiled even deeper layers. Spectral imaging detected faint pigment traces in the grooves, suggesting the lines were once painted blue like the night sky. Meanwhile, 3D scans revealed hidden depressions, small cupules drilled into the stone at specific intervals. When filled with water, these would have reflected starlight, turning the monolith into a dynamic planetarium. Imagine moonlight glinting off these liquid mirrors, animating the carvings as the constellations shifted overhead. Yet the real enigma is the monolith's face. Unlike other Tiwanaku statues, its eyes are hollowed out as if meant to hold inserts. Local legends speak of starstones, polished obsidian orbs that priests would place in the sockets to see through time. Were these lenses for astronomical observations or conduits for visions? The answer may lie in the monolith's original placement. Alignment studies show it once stood at the center of a circular plaza, where its shadow would touch specific markers during equinoxes, dividing the year into ritual cycles. What emerges is a portrait of a civilization that didn't just watch the stars, they wove them into the fabric of daily life. Every harvest, every ceremony, every stone they laid may have been guided by this celestial scripture. And as the Bennett monolith stands vigil under the same sky it maps, it challenges us to see the heavens not as distant lights, but as characters in an epic the Tiwanaku carved for eternity. One of the most haunting questions surrounding Tiwanaku isn't how they thrived, but why they vanished. By the 12th century, this bustling metropolis, once home to tens of thousands, lay eerily silent, its grand plazas deserted and its temples left to the wind. The collapse wasn't gradual, it was a precipitous unraveling, leaving behind half-carved monoliths and meals abandoned mid-preparation. So what happened? Clues are etched into the very landscape, telling a story of ecological crisis, shifting alliances, and a legacy that refused to die. Start with the land itself. Core samples from Lake Titicaca reveal a dramatic drop in water levels during Tiwanaku's final century, a symptom of prolonged droughts that crippled their agricultural heartland. Those ingenious terraces and drainage systems, they couldn't compensate when rains failed for decades. Starvation likely splintered the population, with families fleeing to lower valleys where water still flowed. But climate alone doesn't explain the violence etched into the ruins. Scorch marks blacken some walls, and shattered skulls have been found in collapsed tunnels, hinting at conflict, perhaps internal rebellions or raids by emerging rivals like the Wari. Yet here's the twist: Tiwanaku didn't truly disappear. Its people became cultural seeds, scattering across the Andes and grafting their knowledge onto new societies. The Inca, rising centuries later, venerated Tiwanaku as Tepe Kala, the central stone of creation. They adopted terrace farming, perfected Tiwanaku's stone-cutting techniques, and even replicated their celestial alignments in Cusco's temples. Archaeologists trace this diaspora through pottery shards and oral histories. In the valleys of Cochabamba, displaced Tiwanaku communities kept weaving textiles with old patterns. Near the coast, their descendants traded coca and obsidian along renewed networks. The most poignant evidence lies in language. Modern Aymara, spoken by millions in Bolivia and Peru, retains Tiwanaku's terms for astronomy and architecture, proving ideas outlasted empires. Even today, on the winter solstice, crowds gather at Tiwanaku's ruins to greet the sunrise just as their ancestors did. The city's collapse wasn't an end, it was a metamorphosis, its spirit woven into the fabric of the Andes. And perhaps that's the greatest secret of all. Civilizations don't always die. Sometimes they simply change shape, whispering their wisdom through the centuries. Among the most baffling remnants of Tiwanaku's craftsmanship are the mirror-polished stone's granite surfaces so flawlessly smooth they catch sunlight like glass, throwing back reflections sharper than still water. These blocks don't just defy the technology of their time, they mock it. Modern engineers have tried replicating the finish using traditional tools and failed. The precision is so exact, so unblemished, that running a finger across the surface feels like touching liquid metal frozen in time. How did a culture without powered abrasives or diamond-tipped tools achieve such perfection? The answer might lie in the stones themselves. Close inspection reveals microscopic striations, tiny, parallel grooves invisible to the naked eye but detectable under magnification. These marks suggest a painstaking process. Artisans likely rub the granite with progressively finer grits of sand, perhaps mixed with water as a lubricant for months or even years. Some researchers propose they used leather straps embedded with quartz particles, dragging them back and forth in rhythmic, unending strokes. But here's the catch: andesite and granite, the materials Tiwanaku favored, rank among the hardest stones on Earth. Polishing them to this degree would require not just patience but an almost ritualistic dedication, blurring the line between craftsmanship and worship. Yet the mystery deepens when you consider the logistics. These slabs weren't small trinkets, some weigh multiple tons, meaning they were polished before transportation. Imagine teams of workers hunched over these monoliths in quarries, their hands moving in unison, their tools singing against stone, all before the backbreaking task of hauling them miles across the Altiplano. The effort borders on the fanatical until you notice something curious. The most reflective surfaces always face ceremonial pathways or celestial alignments. At dawn on the summer solstice, the polished stones near the sun gate blaze with reflected light, transforming the plaza into a shimmering stage. This wasn't vanity, it was physics as theater. Stone turned into mirrors to amplify the glory of their rituals. The real enigma: a few slabs show no tool marks at all, their surfaces eerily uniform, as if melted and rehardened. This has sparked fringe theories about lost technologies, lenses focusing sunlight to soften stone, or even sonic vibrations used to liquefy surfaces momentarily. While mainstream archaeology dismisses these ideas, the stones themselves offer no easy answers. They stand as silent provocateurs, daring us to explain how a civilization with no written language mastered materials we still struggle to tame. And when the setting sun strikes them just right, casting golden light across the ruins, it's hard not to wonder, were these mirrors meant to reflect the sky, the people, or something beyond our sight? Buried within the ruins of Tiwanaku's most sacred temples, a collection of ornate drinking cups tells a story far more intoxicating than their intricate carvings suggest. These vessels, once dismissed as mere ceremonial objects, have recently revealed their true purpose: gateways to altered states of consciousness. Residue analysis conducted on their interiors uncovered traces of potent hallucinogens, including compounds derived from the vilca tree and the San Pedro cactus. These weren't ordinary beverages, they were carefully brewed elixirs designed to propel priests into realms beyond human perception. The chemistry of these residues paints a vivid picture. One cup contained harmine, a compound found in ayahuasca vines that amplifies visionary experiences. Another held scopolamine, a substance known to induce trance-like states and out-of-body sensations. Mixed with chicha, a fermented corn beer, these concoctions would have been staggeringly potent enough to send drinkers spiraling into what the Tiwanaku likely saw as communion with ancestors or deities. But what's truly remarkable is the precision of these blends. The ratios of compounds suggest advanced botanical knowledge, a recipe refined through generations of trial and spiritual revelation. Shamans didn't consume these brews lightly. Carvings near ritual chambers depict figures gripping these cups with both hands, their faces contorted in ecstasy or terror, surrounded by swirling patterns that mirror the hallucinations these substances induce. Some vessels even feature tiny drainage holes at the base, suggesting initiates had to drink until the cup emptied, a physical manifestation of their commitment to the journey ahead. But here's the twist: these ceremonies weren't just about personal enlightenment. The placement of the cups, often found near astronomical alignments or burial sites, hints at a deeper purpose. By altering their consciousness, priests may have believed they could interpret celestial omens or guide the dead through the afterlife. The drugs weren't an escape, they were a tool as vital as any telescope or scripture. Modern parallels add another layer. Indigenous descendants in the Andes still use vilca seeds in rituals, claiming the visions reveal hidden truths about the land. For the Tiwanaku, these cups were more than vessels, they were the literal containers of divine wisdom. And as we analyze the dregs of their sacred brews, we're not just studying chemistry, we're glimpsing the desperate, beautiful lengths humans will go to touch the untouchable. Carved into the sun-baked cliffs overlooking Lake Titicaca, a fleet of ancient reed boats glides across the stone not as simple drawings, but as intricate petroglyphs pulsating with hidden meaning. These are the solar barge carvings, a series of enigmatic rock art panels showing vessels bristling with sails, each cradling a radiant sun symbol at its center. At first glance, they might resemble ordinary fishing craft, but the details betray something grander. The sun discs aren't mere decorations, they're precise geometric forms, some ringed with jagged rays, others bisected by crosses that mirror Tiwanaku's celestial iconography. Were these petroglyphs records of real voyages or maps of mythical journeys through the cosmos? The answer may lie in the lake itself. Modern Aymara boat builders still construct totora reed vessels nearly identical to those in the carvings, using techniques passed down through generations. When researchers launched a replica based on these petroglyphs, they discovered something astonishing. The design was hydrodynamically flawless, capable of crossing Titicaca's choppy waters even when loaded with cargo. This wasn't just art, it was naval engineering frozen in stone. Some carvings even show boats tethered together like floating bridges, hinting at ambitious trade networks linking islands to the mainland. But the solar symbols suggest a deeper layer. In Tiwanaku's creation myths, the sun god Viracocha sailed across the primordial lake on a reed boat, bringing light to the world. The petroglyphs' locations reinforce this connection. Many face east, aligned with the sunrise during equinoxes, as if the stones themselves were catching the first light like sails. One particularly elaborate panel near the lakeshore depicts a boat surrounded by spiraling waves and star-like dots. Under ultraviolet light, traces of red ochre pigment emerge, revealing that certain carvings were once painted to activate during solstice sunrises, when dawn's rays would ignite the pigment like celestial fire. Perhaps most intriguing are the variations in style. Some boats bulge with cargo, possibly depicting actual trade expeditions hauling obsidian or coca leaves. Others show empty decks, their sun symbols hovering above them like passengers. A few rare carvings even feature human figures with elongated skulls identical to those found in Pariti's tombs, standing at the prows as if guiding the vessels. Were these shamans navigating between worlds or elite traders overseeing precious shipments? The petroglyphs refuse easy categorization. They blur the line between practical record and sacred allegory, between earthly commerce and divine mission. And when the afternoon light slants across them just right, the boats seem to sway on stone waves, eternal voyages still in progress. A reminder that for the Tiwanaku, every journey, whether across water or into myth, was lit by the same unsetting sun. In the shadow of Tiwanaku's crumbling walls, some stones don't just stand silent, they sing. Strike certain granite blocks with a glancing blow, and instead of the expected dull thud, you'll hear something extraordinary, a clear, resonant tone vibrating through the air like a struck bell. These lithophones produce metallic, almost musical notes that linger, defying expectations of how solid rock should behave. Archaeologists recording these sounds found distinct pitches corresponding to different stones, suggesting an intentional acoustic design rather than random geological quirks. The phenomenon becomes even more compelling when you consider the stone's placement. Many of these ringing blocks align with key ceremonial pathways, clustered near spaces where rituals likely occurred. One particular group forms a rough semicircle around the Kalasasaya platform, their tones blending when struck in sequence, creating natural harmonics that early researchers compared to a primitive xylophone. Were these the Tiwanaku's version of a celestial orchestra, their ceremonies accompanied by the very earth itself? Modern acousticians have mapped the stone's resonant frequencies, revealing something astonishing. When activated at dawn during equinoxes, the sound waves converge precisely where sunlight first strikes the sun gate, as if the vibrations were meant to wake the monument. Local Aymara traditions still speak of Kalasaya, the place where stones speak, where ancestors communicated with gods through sacred percussion. Some oral histories describe priests striking specific sequences to predict rainfall or earthquakes, interpreting the stone's reverberations as divine messages. Yet the mechanics behind these singing stones remain hotly debated. Geochemical analysis shows the granite contains unusually high concentrations of quartz and metallic oxides, which could explain the bell-like tones. But the real mystery lies in the carvings. Many resonant blocks feature small cup marks or shallow grooves exactly where they'd be struck, worn smooth from repeated contact. Was this the work of generations of ritual specialists perfecting their lithic symphony through trial and observation? Perhaps most haunting is what happens when windstorms sweep across the ruins. On rare occasions, gusts strike the stones at just the right angle to produce faint, ghostly tones, an unintended echo of ceremonies long silenced. Whether ancient acoustical engineering or happy geological accident, these singing stones refuse to be mute. Even now, they pulse with hidden harmonies, waiting for hands that remember how to play them. High atop Akapana's pyramid, where the Andean wind bites sharpest, Spanish chroniclers wrote of a sight so dazzling it seemed stolen from myth. The morning sun igniting walls sheathed in hammered gold, each panel fastened with nails of pure, gleaming metal. These weren't mere embellishments, they were a technological marvel, a fusion of artistry and engineering designed to make the structure blaze like a second sun. Fast forward to modern excavations, and the gold itself is long gone, pillaged or melted into colonial coffers centuries ago. But science has uncovered whispers of that splendor, microscopic flecks of gold alloy embedded deep in the pyramid stone crevices, traces so faint they'd evade the naked eye, yet unmistakable under electron microscopes. What makes these residues so telling isn't just their presence, it's their distribution. The flecks cluster in precise, repeating patterns, mirroring the descriptions of gold nails spaced at intervals along Akapana's terraces. Chemical analysis reveals an even more tantalizing detail. The gold isn't pure but alloyed with small amounts of copper, a technique used to strengthen the metal against theft or weathering. This wasn't careless adornment, it was deliberate, calculated craftsmanship. Imagine teams of artisans scaling scaffolding, carefully driving each nail to secure sheets of gold that shimmered across the pyramid's vast face, transforming it into a beacon visible for miles. But the real mystery lies in the logistics. Gold mining in the Andes required traversing treacherous terrain to extract ore from remote veins. The Tiwanaku would have needed thousands of ounces just to plate a single terrace, let alone the entire structure. Some researchers propose they sourced it through tribute-conquered peoples offering gold as a sign of allegiance. Others point to Lake Titicaca's shores, where even today locals pan for flakes in the riverbeds. Yet the scale suggests something grander, a gold economy so robust it could support such extravagance without collapsing. Then there's the haunting question of purpose. Golden walls served more than aesthetic or even symbolic roles. They were solar reflectors. During solstices, sunlight striking the plates would have bounced onto designated altars or statues, illuminating them with celestial precision. The nails, often dismissed as mere fasteners, might have played their own part, acting as conductive points in rituals where metal touched skin, channeling energy between priest and pyramid. The tragedy, of course, is what we've lost. Colonial records describe conquistadors prying nails loose with daggers, their greed blinding them to the artistry they destroyed. But those microscopic traces endure, stubborn echoes of a time when Akapana didn't just scrape the sky, it wore it. And in those golden flecks we're left to wonder, was this a king's vanity, a god's ransom, or something far older? A language of light written in a metal we stripped away before we could read it. Among the stone menagerie of Tiwanaku's ruins, one set of carvings stands out not for their size, but for their surreal anatomy: figures with the wings of condors, the muscular bodies of pumas, and the sinuous tails of snakes. These hybrid creatures weren't just artistic whimsy, they were a visual language encoding the Tiwanaku's vision of the universe itself. Each animal mapped to a distinct realm, the condor soaring as lord of the sky, the puma ruling the earthly plane with its primal strength, and the snake slithering through the underworld's shadows. Together, they formed a sacred trinity, a balance of forces that governed everything from harvests to the journey of the dead. Look closer at these carvings and you'll notice something startling. The transitions between species aren't jarring, but fluid, as if the Tiwanaku saw these beings not as separate, but as interconnected facets of a greater whole. A puma's shoulders might melt seamlessly into feathered wings, its hind legs tapering into serpentine coils. This wasn't just symbolism, it reflected a worldview where boundaries blurred. Shamans, dressed in ritual garb mimicking these hybrids, likely performed ceremonies to move between realms, their costumes acting as spiritual passports. Excavations have revealed headdresses combining condor feathers with puma teeth, and belts studded with snake-shaped pendants, tangible echoes of these stone visions. The most compelling examples emerge from the subterranean temples. Here, hybrid carvings often flank burial chambers, their eyes inlaid with obsidian to glint in torchlight. One particularly haunting statue shows a condor-puma hybrid cradling a human figure, its wings enfolding the body like a burial shroud. Archaeologists speculate these guardians guided souls through the three realms, their dual natures serving as bridges. The condor's aspect lifted the spirit skyward, the puma's strength anchored it to ancestral lands, and the snake's wisdom navigated the underworld's labyrinth. Yet the true genius lies in how these carvings interact with their environment. At dawn during solstices, sunlight strikes certain hybrids at precise angles, casting shadows that transform them. A puma's head might elongate into a serpent's profile as the light shifts. This wasn't passive art, it was participatory cosmology, stone puppetry choreographed by the sun. Modern Aymara descendants still recount legends of shape-shifting deities, suggesting these carvings were more than representations, they were vessels for living energy. What resonates today is the Tiwanaku's refusal to compartmentalize nature. Their hybrids remind us that division is a modern construct. To them, the universe thrived on interdependence. A condor's flight, a puma's hunt, a snake's renewal, all were threads in the same cosmic tapestry. And in these stone fusions, we glimpse a philosophy far ahead of its time, that to honor the world, we must first see it whole. On the shimmering surface of Lake Titicaca today, the Yoros people still build islands that drift like waterborne dreams, entire floating villages woven from golden reeds bobbing gently with the waves. But this tradition may be far older than it seems. Among the scattered fragments of Tiwanaku texts carved onto rare stone tablets and pottery shards are references to kili, mobile platforms that glided across the sacred lake, hosting ceremonies under the open sky. Could the Yoros Islands be the living echo of these ancient floating sanctuaries? The parallels are uncanny. Both the Yoros' modern islands and the Tiwanaku's described platforms share the same ingenious core, layers of buoyant totora reeds lashed together with rope and anchored to the lakebed with braided fibers. The Tiwanaku texts speak of circular stages large enough to hold dozens of worshippers, their surfaces cushioned with woven reed mats to absorb footsteps. Sound familiar? That's precisely how Yoros builders construct their islands today, right down to the practice of adding fresh reeds every few weeks to counteract rot. But here's where the mystery deepens. The Tiwanaku texts hint that these floating platforms weren't just passive stages, they were dynamic ritual tools. One fragmented inscription describes priests using the island's natural movement to read the lake's will, interpreting the direction of drift as divine messages. Another mentions platforms intentionally untethered during solstices, drifting until they beached at a sacred shore where the landing spot determined the year's omens. The Yoros, intriguingly, preserve a similar tradition. Their elders still read the way islands tilt in the wind to predict weather patterns. Archaeologists have found tantalizing physical evidence too. Sonar scans near the lake's northwest shore revealed submerged reed bundles eerily similar to Yoros' foundations, carbon-dated to Tiwanaku's peak. Even more compelling are the artifacts dredged from the lakebed nearby, ceremonial cups and obsidian blades, all clustered in spots that align with the Yoros' own sacred fishing grounds. Were these lost offerings from floating ceremonies centuries ago? The most haunting connection lies in construction rituals. Modern Yoros builders whisper prayers to Mama Kocha, the lake goddess, as they knot each reed bundle, a practice mirrored in Tiwanaku glyphs showing priests blessing platforms with chants and coca leaves. The real revelation: some of those glyphs depict figures with elongated skulls, just like the Pariti remains standing atop floating islands, their arms raised toward the sun. What unravels here is more than a building technique. It's a thread of continuity stretching back 1,000 years. The Yoros may not realize it, but every time they splice a new layer of reeds or interpret the lake's whispers, they're speaking a language first carved into stone by the Tiwanaku. And as their islands sway under the same winds that once filled ancient sails, the line between past and present blurs, leaving us to wonder how many other secrets still float unclaimed on these sacred waters. In the thin air of the Andes, where condors ride thermal currents like living kites, archaeologists unearthed pits that tell a harrowing story, rows of avian skeletons, their wings splayed in death, beaks still gaping as if frozen mid-screech. These weren't natural deaths. The bones showed signs of deliberate starvation, their hollow marrow cavities betraying weeks without food. But the most chilling detail: each condor's breastbone had been ritually cracked open, its heart removed with surgical precision. This was the blood of the condor sacrifice, a sacred act so potent it was reserved for moments when the mountains themselves seemed to tremble. For the Tiwanaku, the condor wasn't just a bird, it was the sky incarnate, a messenger capable of carrying prayers to the gods. Starving the birds before sacrifice wasn't cruelty, it was purification, a way to empty them of earthly ties and make them vessels for divine communion. Forensic analysis of the pits revealed layers of ash and coca leaves beneath the remains, suggesting priests drugged the condors with hallucinogenic snuff to quiet their spirits before the ritual. The heart extraction followed a strict ritual geometry. Cuts always entered from the left side, mirroring the path of the rising sun, as if sending the soul eastward toward the celestial realm. But why such an extreme offering? The answer lies in the pit's locations. Each was dug at the base of a sacred mountain or a pool, believed to house deities controlling weather and earthquakes. During droughts or tremors, the Tiwanaku likely saw these sacrifices as literal negotiations with the land itself. Modern Aymara elders still speak of the practice, recounting legends where starving condors were fed maize soaked in chicha before release, their faltering flight paths interpreted as omens. The Tiwanaku's version was far darker, but the logic echoes. A creature that touched the heavens was the ultimate intermediary, its life traded to restore balance. The sacrifice's aftermath holds equal intrigue. Excavations near the pits uncovered tiny gold foil effigies of condors, some pierced with thorn spines, likely offerings to repay the spirits of the slain birds. Even the skeletons weren't discarded. Many were arranged to form wingspans twice their natural size, their bones wired together with silver thread to fly eternally in burial. The message was clear: death wasn't an end, but a transformation. What lingers today isn't just the brutality, but the intimacy of these acts. To hold a dying condor, to feel its heartbeat fade under your hands, this was religion stripped bare, a raw transaction between humanity and the untamable wild. And high above the ruins, where real condors still circle, their shadows flicker across the pits like ghostly reenactments, a reminder that some pacts between earth and sky can never be broken. Descending into the sunken courtyard of Tiwanaku's semi-subterranean temple feels like stepping into a colossal stone clock. The walls here aren't random. They're a carefully orchestrated array of 175 pillars, each positioned with such precision that they transform the entire space into a celestial observatory. But this wasn't just for awe, it was a lifeline. Every pillar, every gap between them corresponded to specific phases of the moon, creating an agricultural and ceremonial calendar so accurate it could predict the best days to plant crops or hold festivals down to the hour. Walk the perimeter and you'll notice something uncanny. The pillars aren't evenly spaced. Some clusters narrow, others widen, mirroring the moon's erratic dance across the sky. During the summer solstice, sunlight filters through these gaps, casting dagger-like shadows that creep across the courtyard floor, touching carved markers that signal the start of quinoa planting season. Come winter, the angles shift, with moonlight replacing the sun, illuminating different symbols tied to harvest rituals. Archaeologists mapping these alignments found that the entire temple functions like a giant lunar compass, with certain pillars aligning perfectly with the moon's extreme northern and southern positions in its 18-year cycle. The genius lies in the simplicity. Without written records or complex tools, the Tiwanaku encoded generations of astronomical knowledge into architecture. Each pillar's placement wasn't arbitrary, it was a response to centuries of observation. Farmers didn't need charts, they simply had to stand at the temple's center and watch where the shadows fell. A shadow touching a serpent carving meant the earth was ready for sowing. Light striking a condor symbol signaled time to honor the mountain gods, but the real magic unfolds during lunar eclipses. On those rare nights, the entire courtyard becomes a stage. As the Earth's shadow engulfs the moon, the pillars cast no shadows, an eerie stillness that the Tiwanaku likely interpreted as the gods pausing time itself. Oral traditions passed down by Aymara elders describe priests gathering during these moments, chanting to reawaken the moon by scattering powdered minerals along the shadow lines, their voices bouncing off the acoustically tuned walls. What's haunting is how little margin for error there was. Modern simulations show that if even a single pillar were misplaced by a finger's width, the calendar would drift irreparably within decades. Yet the alignments remain perfect, a testament to the Tiwanaku's obsessive precision. The temple doesn't just mark time, it embodies a philosophy where sky and earth were inseparable partners, and humanity's survival hinged on reading their whispers. And as the moon still traces its ancient path above those weathered stones, the pillars stand silent, their secrets etched not in ink but in light and shadow. Deep in the vaults of Andean museums, carefully preserved behind glass, lie coiled strands of knotted cords so meticulously crafted, they seem to whisper in a language we've yet to fully understand. These are the quipu often associated with the Inca, but recent discoveries suggest their origins stretch back centuries earlier to the height of Tiwanaku's reign. Unlike the Inca's more familiar decimal-based quipu, these Tiwanaku-era relics feature asymmetrical knots, unexpected color sequences, and intricate weaves that defy straightforward interpretation. Some archaeologists argue these aren't just accounting tools. They could be narratives frozen in fiber, waiting for the right hands to unravel their stories. Take, for example, a set of quipu excavated near Lake Titicaca's shore, their cotton strands still vibrant with indigo and cochineal dyes. The knots here aren't arranged in neat rows but spiral dynamically, mimicking the patterns of Tiwanaku's celestial carvings. One theory suggests these could be ritual calendars, tracking lunar cycles or festival dates through tactile code. Another points to the cord's unusual thickness variations, some as thin as thread, others as plump as a finger, hinting at a layered system where texture carried meaning as much as not placement. The real enigma lies in the few quipu found buried with elite tombs, their fibers intertwined with gold wire and tiny beads. These couldn't have been mundane tax records. Their craftsmanship suggests sacred purpose. Spanish chroniclers wrote of Tiwanaku priests reading knotted cords during solstice ceremonies, running their fingers along the strings like scrolling through text. Modern researchers experimenting with replicas have discovered something astonishing. The act of handling the quipu changes the tension of the knots, meaning the message might have been dynamic, shifting slightly with each interaction. Were these living documents, their meanings malleable depending on who played them? Then there's the tantalizing link to oral tradition. Aymara elders still use similar knot systems today to memorize epic poems, each knot representing a stanza or ancestral name. If the Tiwanaku quipu functioned similarly, they might encode origin myths or diplomatic treaties, their fibers acting as mnemonic triggers for trained interpreters. The challenge: without a Rosetta Stone, a bilingual key, we're left deciphering shadows. What's certain is that these cords defy simplistic categorization. They blur the line between math and art, between ledger and liturgy, and as new imaging technology reveals microscopic wear patterns hinting at frequent use, one thing becomes clear: the Tiwanaku didn't just tie knots. They wove a language, one that turned thread into thought. And until we crack its code, their fullest stories remain suspended, silent in the spaces between each twist and loop. Tucked away on the rugged slopes of the Andes, half buried by centuries of wind and dust, there's a stone structure so unnerving, even locals refuse to approach it after dark. They call it La Puerta del Diablo, the Devil's Doorway, a massive rectangular arch carved from a single slab of volcanic rock, standing alone on a desolate plateau. Unlike the ceremonial gates of Tiwanaku's temples, this one bears no carvings, no celestial alignments, just a perfect, empty frame, its edges so sharp they seem to slice the very air around it. But here's what chills the bones of those who study it. The stones aren't just silent, they hum. Geophysical surveys reveal something science struggles to explain. The entire structure emits fluctuating magnetic pulses, weak but measurable, as if the rock itself holds a latent charge. During solar storms, these pulses intensify, creating localized distortions that send compass needles spinning wildly. Researchers have tried dismissing it as natural mineral deposits until core samples proved the stone contains no more iron oxide than any other andesite in the region. The anomalies seem to originate from something beneath the gateway, where ground-penetrating radar detected a void stretching deep into the earth, its dimensions too geometrically precise to be a cave. Local Aymara elders need no instruments to confirm what they've known for generations. They speak of Chiji, a tear in the fabric of reality where spirits pass between worlds. Their stories describe shepherds who vanished near the gate, only to reappear days later with no memory of the lapse, their clothing inexplicably damp or covered in strange pollen. One account tells of a shaman who left an offering of coca leaves at the base only to find them days later, neatly arranged on the other side of the arch despite no human footprints in the surrounding dust. Scientists tread carefully around such claims, but even skeptics can't ignore the physical oddities. Thermal imaging shows the structure's surface temperature fluctuates independent of sunlight, as if drawing warmth from an unseen source. In 2017, a team from Bolivia's Archaeological Institute attempted to document the magnetic patterns, only for their equipment to fail the moment they crossed the threshold. The data, once recovered, showed a burst of infrasound frequencies below human hearing that matched seismic activity recorded 1,200 miles away at the exact same moment. Coincidence, even the researchers hesitated to say. The most compelling evidence might lie in the gate's shadow. At noon during the equinox, the structure casts no shadow at all, a phenomenon only possible if perfectly aligned with true north and the sun's zenith. Yet Tiwanaku's other monuments were calibrated to magnetic north, which drifts over time. This suggests the gateway's builders either had knowledge of true north centuries before other civilizations, or they aligned it to something else entirely. What lingers isn't just the mystery of its purpose, but the unsettling question of what or who might have used it. Was it a ritual threshold, a place where priests enacted symbolic journeys to the underworld? A natural magnetic oddity the Tiwanaku marked as sacred, or something far harder to define, a relic of a science we've yet to rediscover, the stones won't say. They just hum, low and constant, like a door left slightly ajar. And in the silence between those pulses, you can almost hear the whisper of something waiting on the other side. Standing before the gate of the sun as the last light of day washes over its ancient carvings, it's impossible not to feel the weight of these 30 secrets, each one a fragment of a story still being pieced together. From the submerged temples beneath Lake Titicaca to the humming stones of Pumapunku, from the star-mapped Bennett monolith to the blood-stained altars whispering of forgotten rites, the Tiwanaku didn't just leave behind ruins, they left a labyrinth of riddles. And what's most thrilling, this is only what we've uncovered so far. Think about it, every decade new technology peels back another layer. Ground-penetrating radar reveals hidden chambers. Soil analysis uncovers lost crops. Even the DNA of modern Andean populations hints at lineages stretching back to Tiwanaku's golden age. What else lies buried in these mountains, waiting for the right shovel or satellite image to bring it into the light? Could there be an entire city preserved beneath the Altiplano's dust, its walls still lined with untouched gold? Might the Chincana tunnels yet yield a sealed chamber, its artifacts frozen in time? The Andes don't give up their secrets easily, but that's what makes the hunt so exhilarating. Here's where you come in. Archaeology isn't just for experts in lab coats. Sometimes the most groundbreaking theories start as sparks of imagination. Maybe you've noticed a pattern in the petroglyphs that scholars overlooked. Perhaps you've wondered if those elongated skulls hold clues to a lost migration. Or maybe you've stood under the stars and felt, like the Tiwanaku did, that the constellations are trying to tell us something. Drop your wildest theories in the comments, because history isn't just written in textbooks. It's written in curiosity, as the sun dips below the horizon, painting the gate of the sun in fiery gold. Remember, this isn't an ending, it's an invitation. The Tiwanaku built their world to last, carving their legacy into stone so future generations would keep asking questions. So keep looking, keep wondering. And who knows, the next great discovery in the Andes might just